It is March 6th, 2025. Welcome to the Town of Sherborn Select Board meeting. I'm going to start by asking the Assistant Town Administrator to please read the relatively brief agenda.
Good evening, everybody. After I read the agenda.
Diane, can you speak this way?
Oh, can you speak? Okay. Good evening. After I read the agenda, the select board can vote to approve or amend the agenda. I have no request for public comments tonight. The first item is the FY26 state budget earmark request. Item number 2 is the North Sherborn Water Sewer District interim commissioners. Review of applications and consideration of interim appointments for 2 at-large appointments, 2 select board appointments, and 1 water commissioner appointment.
Thank you very much, Diane. All right, do I have any motions or amendments to the agenda?
Paul's not here, so I have moved that we approve the agenda as read.
Okay, and we don't have to do the roll call. We can all uniformly do this. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
A second, and I.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thrown off by these live meetings. Okay, moving on. FY26 state budget earmark requests. In your packet is a list of the past requests we've done. It's the kind of
This is what I included was last year's request.
Okay.
To James Arena DeRosa's office, Representative James Arena DeRosa's office. The same requests were submitted to Senator Roush's office. It was a list of about 5 things. Of those 5, 2 were received by the town. So we received an earmark last year, or for this current fiscal year, for $25,000 for safety improvements for Woodhaven and $50,000 for water quality improvements generally.
Okay.
So, those 2 items on this list, likely you wouldn't apply for again.
Okay, is there any additional dialogue, any thoughts on last year's, want to move forward, or any new requests?
For the audience, could you read the others that are still on that?
Yeah, so last year, we submitted for Town Hall campus water supply treatment, farm pond stormwater and access improvements, Woodhaven elder housing, security and lighting improvements, Council on Aging facilities, equipment and outreach for outdoor programming, and a contribution towards the Washington Street, Maple Street intersection improvements, the roundabout.
All right, so I guess back to the question. Does anyone have any thoughts on these that they want to bring back, maybe ones we didn't get money for, or any additional earmarks that are not on this list? Yes, there.
Well, I'd like an update on the farm water quality, the stormwater issue. And if there's still work to be done on that, I'd like to make that an earmark.
There is. That's still in the design phase. I believe it had been going through some permitting. John might be able to provide a little bit more detail, but currently there's no construction funding for those access improvements for the walkway and the stormwater improvements. So prior grants and funding funded the design permitting. So this earmark, if you requested an earmark, it would likely go towards construction. However, the construction estimate is likely more than you would be able to receive in an earmark. So an earmark alone would not be able to complete the project.
Right, but that's not a reason not to make an earmark.
Could be partial, but we also wouldn't know the estimate to tell them. They wouldn't want to fund something if it was only 10% and we would end up doing the work.
Yeah, that's a supplement. So
Last year at this time, the overall project construction value was $250,000.
that was that construction estimate. Now, what is it? Earmarks. I know they use existing grant mechanisms to do an earmark. So these construction earmarks, they'll usually last more than a year. Like for example, if we got an earmark and then we went back to the town meeting after supplemental money, you think that would fly, or you think
it can vary? I mean, we've had earmarks be reduced in half due to state budget issues.
Yeah.
And yes, they'll go a little bit longer than the fiscal year they cover, but they're not indefinite. There's an earmark, an older earmark that we have that we're trying to get concurrence with the state that it's still valid.
Okay.
So they do go away.
Yeah.
As well as the newest one, which has less than a year.
Yeah,
Right,
the
the
more
water
recent
quality.
earmarks, they actually, in the contract from the state, they give a deadline.
But no matter what the size of the earmark, those funds could be used, if we got them, could be used to do part of the work. It's not a project that has to be completely done.
The farm pond one?
Yeah,
No, it pretty much needs to be completely done.
all at once.
Yeah, because it's gonna be an excavation and drainage
Okay,
below what's there,
that's good to know.
the complete project.
I mean, we could include the ask for 250. You know what I mean? We can include the ask and see where we go from there, as well as other ones, and maybe prioritize something above that. Then it might not be a bad ask. I mean, something that I was thinking about a little bit is there any way to complement the tip project? The tip design to Washington Street, you know, I know that's kind of focused on intersections. Is there anything that we can think of that would essentially complement that?
In the earmark for that project,
Yeah.
because that would be almost more complete streets, I would think.
It would be, it could potentially be, and they might use a complete streets mechanism to actually,
Yeah.
to grant you the money, you know what I mean? So like you get an earmark, and like I said, they need a mechanism. So they kind of find a granting mechanism. And they'll say like, okay, we'll use the complete streets and convey this to Sherborn that way.
But I guess all I'm concerned about, we could separately apply for these complete streets grant and maybe not have to have it in. Now, that might reduce our odds.
I know.
The risk,
I
yeah.
know. I don't know enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're, you know, very early in the design study phase of that project.
Yeah, I know.
The tip, the Boston MPO, metropolitan area, or planning organization is committed $900,000, so that is well funded right now.
Yeah, all right. Don't get greedy, you're saying?
That might be an earmark for a future year, once the design is.
I mean, you have a handful of capital projects up for town meeting this spring.
So, I mean, the library is kind of an obvious one, but obviously they're not gonna give us even the low estimate of 900,000 or something like that.
We're talking about the history center.
History Center,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
I think we should include that on the list. We can prioritize, see, this list was also prioritized, so
Yeah, it was.
we can go through and think about what could go on there and then do prioritization.
I do think at least adding it makes sense, you know, because any amount of money that you can get for that is probably going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So George Fisk here earlier, here now. How about there are two other ones on here, which I don't think got the money for last year, the elderly housing security and lighting improvements and council aging facilities equipment for outdoor outreach and outdoor program.
So we received $25,000 for the security.
Oh, we did? Okay.
So all told for FY '25, we're $75,000 in state budget.
Okay.
So that can kind of frame your request as well. That's about on average what
Okay.
sure could expect.
Well, how about the council on aging facilities equipment and outdoor programming? That was a $60,000 request last year.
They'll fund partial things too. We request $75,000 or $100,000 towards.
Do we have more
History Center.
detail on that? Do we know what that actually is going to buy?
The council on aging request, yeah, that was, the COA strategic plan identified the need for some equipment and facilities to improve outreach efforts and provide additional spaces for programming. So it was to provide some things to use outdoors for outdoor programming, tables, chairs, canopy type thing.
Isn't that the sort of thing that could be folded into the town campus improvement project? The gazebo and all that?
Certainly. I mean, that's not funded either, but
No.
yes. Yeah.
Right, but that's another
Like
possibility.
a gazebo or pavilion would function as this.
Right.
We fund also, don't we, the, with even capital fund? We fund that also.
Yeah. Let's use that phone. So I'm just trying to
So there
Think of
it does happen to be the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution in Massachusetts. There's a pretty broad statewide celebration being planned
Mhm.
regarding Massachusetts history. So you may find that an earmark request, you know, sort of within that severe history may fare well at the State House.
Maybe.
Are you going, kind of going back to the library on that, when you think a little bit, or? Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. No, I'm in favor of trying to get something.
The history center.
So let's say we-
The
Yeah,
history
we
center.
have to make sure it's titled History Museum or something.
So let's say we assign, let's say 75,000 is gonna be our cap this year, maybe we get more, whatever else. What could we ask for? Do we ask for like 900,000, get a partial of like 50,000? You know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to think what's
I mean,
realistic.
The Arena DeRosa's budget request form has the total amount of the project in it, and then it has like a minimum amount that would be useful. So we can put in the form, we can put in the overall amount that we want, whatever that may be, and then include something that they could act on.
And when is this due? Like, can we see this on the 20th, or is it 20th could be too late?
So ideally, they'd like this returned in March.
Okay.
The latest, they said they would accept it in the first week of April,
Okay, so
preferably in March.
let's gather some of these drafts we're talking about here, and we represent it, put this back on the 20th. Is it, what else is on the capital plan that we think is either on the cusp, and something else, is there anything on the cusp in our FY 26 capital, post-capital plan that, sits around right around $100,000?
Yeah, there's a handful of
Can't
free
think of
cash
it.
funded, but kind
Yeah,
of routine.
I know, that's the guy I was thinking too. I don't think they'll earmark a police car.
Probably not, but I
The
think
advantage-
Massachusetts history is gonna sell well at the State House this year.
All right,
The advantage of late March though is that we'll have had advisory public hearing, so then we can go through that and then.
Yep.
That'd be a couple of days after your next meeting, the advisory hearing.
yeah, next meeting is on the 20th, and advisory is the 22nd.
Right, but if we submit this the end of March, or we can do it after that meeting and have the input of the advisory meeting.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, for the agenda item, for the select board agenda item, yeah, for the advisory meeting,
Then
we'll
we'll
put
know
this on.
what,
Yeah,
was being supported by advisory and what amount, so it could influence what we put on this list.
we can decide that night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
we'll
know,
go
we
till
could
7
put
versus 5.
together a convincing text in advance. And after advisory, figure out exactly what our ask will be and what for.
We'll turn advisory's 12-hour meeting to a 13-hour meeting, tack it on.
I don't know, but I think it supplements our earmark request if we show that we're putting town money at stake, and so we're just asking for them to supplement that, so I think that isn't like we're asking for a freebie, we're asking for something that's important to the town, but trying to stretch our resources.
Yeah, I have no, and you're 100% right. If we show that we're spending money on it, they're not gonna throw money randomly into the wind.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
If I could, the history center is your project.
yes, I know. Ours, by the way, but yes.
By definition in reality. And I think, this is the chicken and the egg. I think it plays pretty well at the advisory hearing if the select board has already decided to ask for an earmark.
Yeah,
I don't think it's unreasonable at all to ask for a $100,000 earmark in a year that, as Jeremy said, it's a pretty good sell.
yeah,
And it's not really, that's not it's not an insignificant portion of that project.
yeah,
But I think it plays well at town meeting and it plays well at the advisory hearing.
yeah,
Select board is committed to at least ask.
yeah.
If we're asking, what's the highest amount of an ask that's considered appropriate? That is, we never get the whole amount,
We've gotten the whole amount.
really?
We've asked for 100 and gotten 100.
So what if
That's
we
the
ask for
range,
200 then? I mean, I would aim a little higher if we
Could aim
could.
higher, but it's gonna be around that 75.
So we have two
100,000.
250s in here. We have 250 for Farm Pond and 250
Right.
Oh,
for.
we didn't get that.
Those were not awarded.
No, they're
Yeah.
not awarded. Oh, you think
No.
asking too much would reduce your chances
That's
of
what I
getting
wondered.
anything?
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
wanted.
he said that on the
Yeah.
form, you have the max, you have your dream amount, and then he said, what's the minimum amount you can kind of live with?
Yeah, we did that, we
We just
did
kinda
that with
switched it,
the town hall campus. We put 50 as the minimum.
With town hall, did we get the 50 that we got? I don't remember.
Yes, we
Okay.
got 54. They have a lot of quality.
Okay.
One was a Senate earmark, one was a.
So in the case of the library museum, historical museum project, what actually is the minimum amount that would be useful?
I think any amount.
Yeah, realistically, any
Any
amount, right? Because
Right.
logically, it's not like not getting the earmark means that the project will never move forward. It might just look a little bit different. But, you know, if we are thinking that the entire project is actually gonna cost somewhere north of $1 million, right? And then the Historical Society is committed to some amount of fundraising, and then they're gonna be asking the town for, I think it's gonna be 800,000 at the town meeting. You know, so it's like, we can demonstrate that, look, we have multiple funding streams, right, and options,
Right.
but any amount of money that the state can chip in is really gonna help out. And so, I don't know, to me, I mean, asking for 100,000 is pretty reasonable. And then, I don't know, if you put a $1 as the minimum amount that's useful, I don't know how they'll view that.
Yeah, I mean, along with this form, we have conversations with them. So
Yeah.
We can verbally
Right.
frame it for them.
But just this, we'll put this further on Marion's side, just, pretty much 800,000 is like the bare bones. I mean, the high estimate was what, 1.5, 1.4?
I think 1.3 was, that was the project that was
Oh, right,
presented
but
to
that,
us.
So
the
if we-
800,000 included, a cut down of some of the.
A lot, yes. So let's say we get
But
100 grand,
also-
900 grand gets a little bit better. And let's say they raise another 200, 1.1 gets
Right.
a bit better.
They had
The
like
bare bones is 800.
200 at least of fundraising, promise in there, if you like.
Okay.
So
With
it
a
already was below.
With a combination of some value engineering and commitments for fundraising, their request for town meeting is in the $800,000 range,
Yeah, it was like
possibly
a
less,
seven, yeah.
based on the conversation last
seven.
night.
I would like to recognize Dan.
Thanks, Eric. I was just gonna say, given the conversation advisory last night, the initial ask last night was 800,000 with an expectation of, as others have said, raising a couple 100,000 and doing some value engineering to bring the cost down. I would say, given the conversation, that if the ask remains at 800, I'm not sure that advisory is gonna give a favorable recommendation at 800. So just in terms of your thinking, just, that number may change. There may, I know Doug and the Historical Society folks, I think, are meeting, I think, soon to kind of reassess and think about plans. But I think you should just be thinking there's a possibility that advisory is gonna not give a favorable recommendation, and just think about how that would fit with strategizing about how to do it.
Are you meeting, are you voting on that? I guess we have the hearing, aren't you?
On the 22nd.
22nd, yeah.
And I think a lot's still gonna happen between now and then, but
You gonna have even a better vibe before the 20th?
yes, I think so, which I would be happy to share.
So yeah, I definitely put on the list for the 20th. I think that's a no-brainer. And, we'll discuss it more then. And, and I say we even vote to move forward with it, and maybe we'll see after the advisory hearing if we change our mind at the end of that night. So just to kind of pull this together, so we have the historical side, we have so Farm Pond, do we want to include Farm Pond access or not? Obviously, they're not gonna give us the full value of the construction, $250,000. Do we ask for some or not? And remind me, is that an FY 26 capital request? Farm Pond?
It's not.
Okay, oh, okay, That makes sense.
I'll make a point about farm pond too.
yeah, I got it.
There's several other grant mechanisms that we have available to us for farm pond. That, once we have it permitted and they cross that threshold with the, someone help me, the base, what's the plan we're working on?
Oh,
The base watershed plan. Opens the door to other funding that we're pretty confident we'll get. So I think putting an earmark in front of that probably doesn't play that well.
Do you think we'll get the full amount of construction? Do you think your mark would supplement that at all, or, you know what I mean?
We may need to, I think you're ahead of it by putting an earmark on
Okay.
a project that's not permitted.
and those are competitive grants as well, so
Okay.
it's not a given, but
Right.
with that study completed, it would be a competitive request.
So maybe put it on the bottom of the list for the 20, well, we know anything more before the 20th, of what you're saying. Well, we're not have a better idea by the 20th. What are people's
Farm
thoughts?
Pond, probably not.
Keep it on or take it off, Farm Pond? Sounds, I'm inclined to take it off, this phrase.
Sounds like what do you think?
I'd leave it on.
I would.
I would leave it on.
What are other people's thoughts? We have it off, we have it on.
Well, I guess what are we saying though, if it's, I'm swayed by the schedule. If we're not planning, maybe we've added in next year's submission.
That's what I'm thinking, Sean, saying the timing's just not right.
I think you're a little ahead of it, slightly.
Meaning not do it this year, but next year request, is that what
Oh,
you're saying?
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think a fair amount will change between next year. Nothing's gonna change
so
between
we're
now and March.
taking it off, but not removing
Well,
it.
I'm kind of getting a vote. We have one vote to keep it on. We have two votes to take it off. Anyone else want to keep it on or take it off?
Well, let me explain my thinking, that with earmarks, having done this now for a number of years, you ask for a variety of things. If you don't ask, you don't get. So you ask for, every one of these projects it's got supporters at the State House. When we were getting the legislation passed to give the ownership of Farm Pond to Sherborn, there was complete understanding that Sherborn was going to be responsible for maintaining that pond, whereas the state had responsibility before. And there were all kinds of statements made about, the state's there to help us. So maybe there's some people there will say, gee, we made a commitment years ago for this particular pond. You never know. So what I'm saying is, these really don't interfere with each other. If we could get a little bit on everything, great. If we get some on some, great. We have nothing to lose.
I guess, but
I don't agree with that.
I don't think they don't interfere with each other. I think they do interfere with each other per se. They're not gonna give the town $2 million. My point being is Farm Pond, we're not gonna be able to use it this year. We're not using it until the next year due to grants.
Yeah,
If we get 50 grand, does the history, now not get 50 grand?
right.
And I think that's realistic. I do think they interfere with each other. And I do think they have a certain idea what Sherman kind of gets per se, and a little bit spread out is probably not a good thing. I personally would like to not do Farm Pond, put more in the History Center, and that next year go for Farm Pond, because that's when we're actually gonna do the work and we get the other grants. That's my thinking on it.
You've
Yeah, I
convinced me.
completely concur with that, because if we can't use the money, why put it in there? They don't wanna, if schedule-wise, we can't expend it in that fiscal year, we shouldn't request it.
So Sean had another.
Yeah,
I guess the risk would be we get money we can't spend. So different than how we said we're gonna do the History Center, if we say we need 200 to do the project, we also need to say we need the full 200.
Mhm.
I don't know how that plays out. You never know. We might get it.
Yeah.
Because then we could, we could accomplish it. Getting half of it, we can't have, because we wouldn't be able to use it in the fiscal year.
I agree.
when do we actually find out about the earmarks? I don't know what the timing of that is.
You won't find out before town meeting.
Okay, you know
It'll
that's,
be well after.
you know what's going with that. Because frankly, even advisory said a no action, and we got an earmark, you could totally reverse the no action, you know what I'm trying to say? Whatever else.
It's after the
Hopefully
government
we find
signs.
out before the fiscal year starts.
Nice.
Guys, we should probably try to move on.
I am trying, yeah. So Woodhaven Housing Security, sounds like that's not necessary, correct? It's got to have that, whatever. Council aid facilities, equipment for outreach, outdoor program, keep that on. Any thoughts, pro or against that?
Against it, but it's kind of a vague ask, and I'd like to think more about how it can be integrated into other things that we already.
I suggest keeping a list of the 20th, and we can get a little more detail.
Yeah, that's
It's
just
important enough then.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And Washington Maple Street, I'm gonna use that money to put boulders around the.
What color are you gonna paint them?
Meetings recorded. Okay, anything else to think of, or you want to think more before the 20th? Anything else that's otherwise on, we basically have three things right now. between this and that,
And we
right?
can think about the priority level of those three.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're good on that. Without further ado, I'm recusing myself off this one, so good luck, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
Not sure why this is.
See you in a little bit.
Yeah, see you guys up the hill.
All right, thank you. So next item on the agenda is appointments for the North Sherborn Water District, and we're looking at appointing two interim commissioners. and we have 6, is that right? 6 applicants for these 2 spots, which is great. Usually we're struggling to find,
I think
One.
actually technically your 2 went to, it's not 6, Diane, you can correct me, 2 were from the water commission.
No, it's 6
No.
without.
we have 6 excluding the,
Water.
The town water
All right, I'm
commissioners.
saying, I'm sorry.
I have a structural idea.
sure,
These applicants are all wonderful. And it's gonna be a really hard choice to choose between. They all bring something to the table. So while we're looking at 2, I was thinking about creating associate members and basically appoint all of these people. And out of the 6, designate 2 as board members and 4 as associate members.
That's a good idea. I would add one other comment to it, and a lot of the people are here. I think the problem I had with the list is they'd be super people for the permanent water commission, but we're creating it, so we need some legal and financial expertise to set up the commission. So we don't need as much environmental experience initially, because we're gonna have to hire someone to manage the water district. We're gonna have to set up, billing systems to bill customers and all that kind of thing. So it's not about water quality usually, I don't think.
I think we need both.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jeremy, you might be able to remind us, in the legislation, there was a certain schedule on which the commissioners would turn over, like in the initial appointment, one is appointed for 2 years, one for 3 years, et cetera. And I think that's what we're doing also tonight. Is that correct?
I think what you're appointing some interim commissioners.
Right.
The legislation spells out once some of the development projects are in place, there's representation from those developments.
Right.
I think, your interim appointments, should you make them tonight, would be 3 years or less.
Okay.
but I think also that the interim commissioners are not likely to be appointed for a specific term. I think they're going to be appointed until such time that the permanent commission gets appointed.
That's what the legislation
Right.
says.
And then, so at that point, the term limits as defined in the legislation would kick in. So right now, no, so if something crazy happens and it takes 5 years before the permanent commission rolls on, I think tonight's interim commissioners are theoretically going to be on there for the full time, unless they, choose to step down on their own. But I don't believe that they will be limited by a certain number of years.
Right, but the interim commission will be involved in signing the IMA with Natick and Framingham. And I think we should point out too, since we have, 6 qualified people, and it's going to be hard to choose, as Paul said, all of their meetings will be open meetings. So everyone, whether they're an associate, made an associate commissioner or not, will have input. And I just wanted to note that for people who are watching. And it's not going to be a committee that works behind closed doors. It'll be just like every other public committee that we have.
Yeah, open meeting law. Let me ask a clarifying question. You may know, Steve, because it says there's 2 at-large appointments. How are they appointed?
So the 2 at-large appointments are essentially, they are the ones that, in the permanent commission, would be representatives of the actual developments.
Right, but who?
But tonight, we're appointing those 2 at large.
And are we appointing, or the water commission is going to appoint one member?
I believe the water commissioners have
He
already,
sent 2 in.
Right.
Yeah. No, they didn't send 2 applicants. They sent 2 CVs, so
Yeah.
we could see who is on the water commission.
right?
But in fact,
But you
they
guys have
already
determined,
have appointed one.
you guys have decided to appoint Meredith Wazlowski, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So that one is done. The 2, well, I guess it's up to you whether you consider Marion and I to be the select board appointments or the at-large appointments.
So you should vote that when you vote the other 2 at large. You should just vote the whole
Yeah.
commission.
Right.
And then essentially we're looking at two,
Two appointments
Yeah.
from the citizens of the town,
Correct.
which is what we're doing now.
right?
But again, that's why I want to create this associate group. Like a lot of boards and committees have associate members. And they are members, they just don't vote,
Yeah,
but they're involved. When you look at all these resumes, it blows me over. This is wonderful to have such an outpouring. And if people are willing to give their time to the town, why say no to anybody? So if we can put everybody in, let them participate. I think the committee will be stronger. The committee will be stronger. We'll have more perspective on a lot of issues. Yeah, people can come there occasionally, speak under public comment or whatever. That's different than being an associate member. Associate member, you have to be seated at the table, be part of the committee. They just don't vote.
I mean, the planning board has an associate member, don't they? And so does the ZBA has an associate member, don't they?
But still, we need 5 members who are going to be voting members
Yes.
and sign things on where the buck stops, basically. They're going to sign things on behalf of the commission.
And I would assume also that the ones that we are appointing tonight would very likely, assuming that they are still interested, simply roll on to the permanent commission when that, when it becomes time to appoint the permanent commission. I intend to probably give each of the 6 candidates time to give a statement and maybe respond to some questions. But one of the things I'll ask, of course, is if each candidate is willing and interested in serving on the permanent commission when that time comes. So everybody will have an opportunity to basically say whether that is true or not. But that would be my assumption, is that they'll just continue to bring their expertise and experience from the interim commission onto the permanent commission.
Possibly. But I think when the permanent commission is appointed, according to the legislation, that is a new appointment.
Correct.
I don't think it automatically
Right.
rolls over.
Yeah, and I think with the developer being on the board, then we have to take.
All right, so I think what I would want to do is probably give each of the candidates an opportunity to, I guess, introduce yourselves to us and I guess state why you're interested in being part of this water commission and why you think you would be a good choice. Probably, what do you think? I was gonna have each person give a statement, go through all 6, and then after that, we can sort of open the floor to comments and questions for everybody. Does that sound good? Or do
Yeah,
you
the
want?
only, if they can address my question, which was, up front, we're gonna probably need more legal and financial people than technical people. So they're all terrific candidates, but maybe if they could think about how they could fit into that early stage functional need.
Sure.
That sort of dissipates once the board is created.
I think the legal and financial side is an important one in the beginning. But I think it's hard to foresee exactly what this interim commission is going to do over the course of time, because they're going to be in place right up to the time that the pipes are in the ground and start actually delivering water to a done development. So I think it also, and seeing the candidates we have, I would be very happy to have someone with engineering experience as part of it. I mean, just knowing how valuable it's been in our talks with the developer and Natick and Framingham to have the resident engineer, Jeremy, in the meetings, able to speak the language. I would want to retain that kind of expertise, some of that expertise on the commission.
Don't you think that we'll continue using, what's his last name, Tom, the attorney
Tom
that
Mullen.
we use? Yeah, Tom Mullen.
Right.
We continue, so if people didn't know that, we had an attorney that is an expert in establishing water districts. So he advised us to meet with the mayor of Framingham and everything we've been doing for 3 or 4 years. So Well, I think he would still be involved in the legal side. So when I say legal and financial, we do have specific legal counsel who will be advising.
But especially financial, this is a business.
Yeah, it is.
And the interim commission is going to be involved in basically setting up
Launching
initial
business,
business.
launching business.
Do we know, Jeremy, so while the commission is interim, there's obviously no revenue stream. And if we were to utilize a special counsel, obviously, we would need funding for that. Can we essentially use the town's general fund or the select board's budget to fund that
Yes.
in the interim, basically?
Yep.
Great. All right, so why don't we move on to the candidates? I thought maybe we would just go by alphabetical order by last name, if that's okay with everybody. So I believe the first in the alphabet here is Matthew DiMartino.
Hi, Matt DiMartino.
Great.
Sherborn resident for 13 years. New to the town, as they would say. Live on Course Brook over on the Framingham side. Civil engineering degree from Wentworth. Do a lot of work for a heavy civil contractor. Do a lot of utility work in the city of Boston. Licensed to do work in the city of Boston myself. Do a lot of work in the city of Cambridge. Right now, I'm working a little far out in Clinton at the Wachusett Dam. We have an pump house that actually feeds water from Wachusett to Framingham, to Boston, to Brookline. And I'm also building an electric bus garage for the MBTA in Cambridge.
Great, thanks. And do you have any experience working on any boards or committees in Sherborn?
No.
Okay.
There are a lot of cities and towns with permitting and utility installation, foundation installation, roadway work.
All right, thank you. Next we have Joshua Gould.
Josh Gould. We've been here not very, you're gonna be an elder statesman compared to us. We've been here about, how long have we been here? 4 months, 5 months in town. We both grew up in Harvard, Mass, similar sized town, similar town. I don't have the experience in the legal or financial end of it, but construction experience. I was an excavating contractor for 20+ years, septic, sewer work. Not much experience with the heavy utility, but I've been in construction my whole life, working for heavy civil now. So have that background to bring to the table, but as far as setting up policy and that, I could certainly add to the discussion, but probably on that end of it, the legal and financial part of it, probably not my strong suit.
Although your resume said you were also on the water commission or water board in Harvard.
I was, but we didn't set up policy
Yeah.
per se. I mean, we had the water commission had been in place for
That's my ignorance. Do they have a public water supply?
a small one, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very small one in the center of town.
Many people on wells too.
Yeah, mostly wells, yeah.
And Dover's more like, Dover does the same.
Yeah, it was small in the center of town and so that, made it tricky for the rest of the town for fire purposes. But I think we had 68 hookups in town. And the majority of the hookups were public buildings.
Great, thank you so much. Next is Kathy Horgan, who I believe is virtual.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kathy Horgan-Dye. I'm been in Sherborn 25 years, which is also a short timer, based on most people. Let's see. I have experience in other groups with the cell tower and traffic studies. I've been on many, many other boards, Disability Commission, Sherborn Cultural Council, FOPA, Dover Sherborn Middle School, the high school, CSA. I mean, you guys have my resume, so you know how many activities and boards that I've already been on. I worked for the town for 7 years in the Council on Aging. Most importantly, I think, is I live in the district, and I don't believe that anyone else At least the other four that I knew about. I don't know if Mr. Gould lives in the district. But if he doesn't, I'm the only candidate that does. And I've been talking with a lot of people that live on Meadowbrook and Coolidge and Prospect. And first of all, they didn't really know about this candidacy and they were shocked about it. They were shocked that we weren't going to get all five seats. So I do think that having a representative from this district is very important. Um, let's see, I was the first applicant. Nobody asked me, begged or pleaded with me to apply. I was interested from the very beginning, even before resumes were asked for. So I'm very interested, I'm committed. But I'm also willing, like I said in my application, I'm willing to split the job with, if there was another candidate that, just wants to do it but doesn't have the bandwidth, I would be willing to split the job with someone else. But I also love Paul's idea of appointing everyone and not wasting the different talents that are out there. I do have experience with project management. I've managed projects up to $1 million. I have experience in law firms with contracts, buying and selling different houses, managing, project management, construction management. And I have also, and I mentioned in my addendum that my husband, although he's not applying, has a ton of experience with construction supervision, engineering, and he is going to be a great resource for me if I was appointed. So, and I have the time. I do not have a full-time job. So thank you for considering me, and I'm glad there's a lot of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Frank Jenkins, also a newcomer to town.
I've been here as long as Paul Lorenzus has, I believe. I moved here in 1958 and have been here ever since. I've served on many committees here in town, advisory committee early on, town planning task force, 1975. I'm currently chair of the land acquisition committee here in town. I'm a member of the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation's board. And I've served in many other capacities, various town activities. My background is not in the water area, however, it was mainly consulting work. I'm a graduate engineer, mechanical engineer. I have my MBA from Wharton, and with that, I served in a consulting capacity of a firm in Boston that we founded back in the 60s, so in the 90s, and I've been retired ever since, although I'm still pretty active in various capacities. I'm a professor at Clark University, teaching in their MBA program right now. The skill set that I bring is in finance and business. However, I've had clients in the water arena, Consumers Water up in Maine was a client of mine, and we assisted them in expanding their footprint as well as selling the company to Alcaquade in French water company. So I know the water business mainly from that standpoint, having to learn a lot about how public water companies operate and what their concerns are and so forth. I'd love to work with the town in this capacity. Been around a long time, so I probably won't be interested in a long-term relationship with the district. However, I'd be willing to help get it started and move along to the point where we start seeing construction and start moving over and start building that whole project out that we've been working on very long.
Great, thank you, Frank. Next we have Nora Kochu-Parakal. But I thought I saw on the screen earlier, but then popped off. So maybe we'll skip Nora for now and jump forward to, I think Andrea Stiller, I think you're the last one then.
Okay. Hi, folks. I have been in town 25 years. And two daughters graduated from the school district. So they've hatched. And I started my career as in geotechnical engineering field, which exposed me to a lot of construction related activities. I was on site doing, checking soil for suitability for supportive foundations. So from that standpoint, I have experience. I'm not financial or legal, unfortunately. I transitioned to the environmental consulting side of things, and I'm an LSP, licensed site professional. I am on the groundwater protection committee. I've been there, well, I was initially in around 2000, I don't know, 12 or something. I was a representative of the Conservation Commission onto the Groundwater Protection Committee, and then that sort of was quiet for a while, and I rejoined again in 2020 when it started up again, and I've, been with them since then. I was on the Conservation Commission for about 10 years, 2006 or 7 until 2016. So, I understand the town. I understand construction. I understand soils. And, could perhaps be helpful in that way. But all, depending on what skill sets are needed. Certain concerns, I think about when running piping is that we don't, if the excavation is going through contaminated sites through, I don't know how the piping is going to run from Framingham through General Chemical or other contaminated sites. We don't want to create a pathway to expedite the transport of contaminated groundwater into our town. There are ways to mitigate that. But so I'm happy to help, in any way that it might be useful.
Great, thank you so much. So I guess first for the board, I want to get your thoughts on Paul's suggestion that effectively that we appoint everybody, and essentially it would be 2 voting members and then 4 associate members. I believe that would make the full commission 9 members, because there are 5 official members and then there would be 4 associate members.
Well, can I clarify that?
Yes.
Because it says there's 2 at-large appointments. You're saying those will be Toll Brothers appointments?
No.
No,
So,
No,
2 residents are gonna be,
we're appointing those tonight.
no, I know, but we have 2 select board appointments. That'll be you and Mary.
For the moment, yeah, the idea,
I'm just trying to figure out how many slots there are, is what I'm trying to get at here.
there are 5 slots total. We're appointing 2 from the public at large.
Yes,
Okay.
so essentially the board membership is 5, right? So
Right,
one of them is appointed by the town's water commission, and that's Meredith.
yeah,
And then 2 are going to be appointed by the select board,
yes.
which currently that's, I think, based on a previous meeting, we decided it was going to be me and Marion.
Right, okay.
And then there's 2
2 more
more
slots.
that in the permanent commission will be essentially, well, Toll Brothers, but effectively in perpetuity, representatives of the largest water users.
Yeah, exactly.
Which will both most likely be those 2 projects.
Residential committee.
Exactly.
committees, right.
But because those don't exist yet, we are essentially appointing those 2 as well tonight.
So what you're telling me is we have 5 candidates for 2 slots.
6 candidates.
Well, one didn't interview though.
Yes, but she applied.
applied.
Yeah, and she was on screen, so I don't know, she's just having technical
Okay,
difficulties.
So the idea is with 6 candidates, there are 2 vacancies. So out of the 6, 2 fill the 2 vacancies, that leaves 4. So you have a commission then of 5.
Yeah,
You have 4 associate members, total 9. 9 is a workable number.
also an odd number, so that's good. You don't have to tie votes anytime. I like
And
that.
I will say that having been the chair of the advisory committee for several years, with just 9 members,
Yeah,
sometimes it can be a little challenging to
Yeah.
kind of corral 9 members.
Mr. Sickles here, so.
Yeah.
Second.
It may be easier when only 5 of them are actually voting, but
Yeah.
still the conversation can sometimes get a little bit out of hand. I don't know that the topics being discussed by this commission will be quite as wide-ranging as the advisory committee, but still.
Well, I like having the associate members because if they have a particular expertise, you can assign them to do a particular scope of work and have it come back.
Yeah, and also somebody move out of town who's on the commission.
Right.
Right. You have a backup that can.
Yeah.
Even
That's a
step in
bullpen.
and there's no loss
Yeah, I
of
know.
continuity.
I should add, I think that, the reason that we have 2 select board members, we're putting ourselves basically on the interim commission is because the interim commissioners are going to be important in getting the intermunicipal agreements with Natick and Framingham finalized. In fact, the interim commission will be signing those agreements along with the town and with Natick or Framingham. So Steve and I have been working on those intermunicipal agreements for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So this provides some continuity. But I have to say, can't speak for Steve, but for myself, I will resign as soon as
Oh, yeah.
possible.
Oh, yeah,
And one of the associates can step forward.
absolutely.
Let me just say a word about associate members. I've been on boards and I've been a lawyer to boards that have associate members. And by and large, most of the time, they're acting as full members. They speak, they debate, they get involved, they get a portfolio of things that they're doing, they share the load. There isn't anything like we're in the upper class and you're in the lower class and we're not gonna listen to you. It's particularly in a town like Sherborn, everybody will work together for the common good here. This is an important committee. This is an important goal. It has a lot of things that we want to achieve. I see this as a wonderful opportunity that the talent that we've heard from listening to here, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So I want to put them all on the committee. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's fine with me. I just
to.
wanted to make sure that everybody else was okay with that.
Yeah, no, I think it's appropriate, because then we still have to decide.
We do still have to decide, but we'll get to that. But I wanted to make sure that we knew from the get-go what we were sort of
Yeah, no,
deciding
that's what I
on.
was trying to do.
Then
The
nobody's gonna
legislation is silent on that. So Jeremy, do you see any problems with that approach?
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah, there would be 5 voting members.
Yeah.
Those 5 would be what the quorum of a meeting is constituted as. The quorum would not be to count the associate members.
Right. So
Great.
given that,
So then what we need to do then is figure out, okay, well, who are the 2 voting members and who are the 4 associates? And I will say at the outset, I really like the fact that there are, I think, at least 3 applicants here who have never served on any board or committee in Sherborn. I do think that it's very important to try to get new people involved in town. I've only been here 11 years, so I am certainly a sort of junior member of town. And I never expected to be in the position that I'm in right now. It was, gosh, it must have been my 3rd year living in town. And, there were issues with 40B and affordable housing, and we needed a Sherborn affordable housing partnership. And they put out a call for volunteers, and so I volunteered for that. And I thought I would do that for a year or 2 and then be done with this kind of civic stuff.
So this.
That was about 8 years ago, so.
It counts as a warning, is what you're
Yeah,
telling me.
yeah. So it is also a warning that by raising your hand, this town would get their hooks in you. So,
I have a question for you,
You,
Mary.
Mhm.
Because you have so ably brought this commission to where it is today. really is important to me, what you need. So when we make the hard decision about which of the 6 will be voting members as opposed to associate members, I'd like to hear from each of you of these candidates, what do you think best fits the needs to get us into the end zone where you carried us down to the 10-yard line? What skills do you need? Which of these candidates do you think are best to work with you?
Can I say one thing before you answer that?
Yeah.
I'm giving you a delay time here, okay? Because that's what I agree with Paul completely, but what we think of it 2 ways. One is what skill sets would you need in, I like the word interim, because in the first 2, say, years or 2.5 years, you'll need different skill sets you might need. The second is, we can also ask the candidates if any of them would prefer to be an associate member.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna do that.
Yeah. Some of them may be trying to decide between work
Yeah.
commitments and other commitments, so they might be amenable to
Yeah,
that.
so actually, I'll start by putting out there voluntarily, would any of the candidates actually prefer to be an associate member?
I was actually waiting for a pause in the discussion because I probably don't have the experience for the legal financial end of this, the construction end I'm interested in, but being new to town, I'd like to be a part of it. I'd like to see it go through, so if that takes some of the pressure off, I'd like to change my application to read associate member.
Yeah, what I said earlier, in other words, 3 years from now, we'll need a different skill set.
Yeah, so, but I would like to be a part of it to see where it goes, so.
All right,
If that
so-
helps,
Great, Joshua, or you, or Josh, do you go by Josh?
either, yeah.
Associate member. All right, any other volunteers, no pressure, honestly, volunteers for a preference to be an associate member rather than a full voting member?
While you're thinking about that, let me just say a legal word. The people who are the voting members are the ones who are going to get sued.
They're gonna rescind my application.
If there's a developer out there who feels he's been wronged by a vote, the associate members do not get sued.
Sean,
He said sued, so I raised my hand.
you're volunteering to be sued?
I would suggest, I don't know if Kathy's still there. She may want to consider being an associate member because although she's in the district, that this at-large member was not meant to be in the district currently, so she's slightly conflicted. There may be some deemed at least conflict there. The future permanent board will have people in the district, but I think they'll be within the So-
No, I definitely don't want to be, I mean, if I end up an associate, fine, but I am not wanting to be an associate because in some ways, I think everyone that's not in the district has a conflict of interest because if you're not in the district, you're going to be willing to do things that might not necessarily be the best thing for the town. So if you're in the district, you're going to care about the town and the area that it's going to happen in. So I definitely don't want to be an associate.
I appreciate that, Catherine. I think that could be argued both ways. I think maybe we should set that
That's
aside. Get back to the expertise that we need.
big one more.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Good?
Yeah.
Well, I agree up front. There's legal and financial. We're building a water system. I think there's a whole host of things that no one in the room has ever done, which is some permitting with EPA, DEP, NWRA. I mean, that's largely going to be handled probably by the attorney and consultants. But we're building a water system, so there is a technical side of this. Although no one on the commission is going to be reviewing the plans, it's good if someone actually can read them. Because those plans will be coming to me, they'll be, we'll be reviewing them as well for the actual construction and permitting.
And they'll be going to Concom.
I think there's some value to that, sure.
Well, but Toll Brothers or whoever the developers will have a construction management firm, so
Absolutely.
we're almost, owner's rep or whatever you wanna call it, to their construction.
Maybe not even an owner's rep, but
Yeah.
it's the commission that's signing off on those permits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would tend to agree that a significant amount of technical and engineering expertise is probably desired. I would think that for at least one of those two voting member slots, I would probably want somebody whose primary area of expertise is in engineering and basically the technical side of things. And I think that probably to some degree, any kind of experience in policy is helpful. And in sort of having worked in sort of on government committees, so just kind of knowing how the sausage gets made in government, basically. I think that's probably also helpful. And again, to some degree, I do also have a preference for people who haven't done a great deal of stuff in town. Just again, I mean, no offense, Frank, but just in terms of trying to get new people really more fully involved and integrated into various town boards and committees. Because again, once you get onto one town board or committee, I guarantee you it's probably not going to be your last. So, so that's just me personally. I want to try to get more new people in, but I don't know within this context how everybody else feels about that.
With that statement in mind, I was thinking that we might, I know that the other water commissioner, Taylor Rycroft, did not, he feels he is he might not be able to meet the burden of being on the interim board, which is why he chose not to, but his expertise is definitely within the range of what you just described. So I was wondering if, and he might say no, but if we might also offer him an associate name, associate, and if he says yes, that would be great. If he says no, understood, and we'll still be able to ask him his input, because he'll be able to read those engineering documents.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, you might consider offering an associate position to him as well.
I like that idea. My only hesitation with that is the fact that we have 6 applications in front of us for 2 spots, I think what I would say to that is essentially, again, these are not private closed door meetings. They're going to be public meetings, just like any other public board or committee in town, and so he is more than welcome to attend any of the meetings that he wants and to offer his technical and policy expertise on any matter. So that's probably, I mean, I think that it would be great to have his contribution to this commission. But again, we have these 6 here in front of us, so I am more inclined to stick with the 6 that we have here. But what do you
If
guys?
this goes ahead, of course, we'll need a permanent commission. And maybe if he's less busy, then.
And even on the permanent commission, the water commissioners always are going to have one appointee on the permanent commission. So 3 years from now, things might be different and you guys might decide, okay, let's, yeah, exactly. You're probably not going to want to be on 2 commissions for, the next 8 years or whatever.
Just one other thought, if I could, Mr. Chair. So I serve as counsel to a number of water commissions that actually run water.
Actually, have water.
They're delivering water. And the meetings I have attended, like the biggest subject is finances, is what rate to charge, what volume, connection charges, financial discussions. they end up hiring consultants to help them set rates, because DEP has all kinds of regulations, like the more water you use, the more you're supposed to pay for it, and so it means discouraging the use of water. But there's all this, it just seems like a lot of this, their time is spent on financial issues. And it's not just rate setting, it's also, you gotta maintain things. You gotta make sure that when the pipe breaks, that somebody is paying attention to it, gets fixed. There's just a lot of, at the end of the day, most of it boils down to money
And business.
and business.
I wonder if it might be useful, this is just a suggestion, Steve, you can decide how you want to do this, but I'm wondering if, since, we're gonna be running out of time soon, we have to go to caucus, it might be useful for each of us to kind of give our personal choice of how we would decide this. We can go around and see how much we're together
Sure,
or not. Might be one way to do it.
sure. That makes sense. You want to start? I could start also, but chair's prerogative, I'll go last.
Well, okay, I'll start. This is really hard. I'm weighing the expertise that we have, especially in engineering. I'm so glad that Mr. Gould agreed to be an associate because, he has a lot of expertise that we really want also. And that makes it, maybe one tiny bit easier. But
That's what I'm here for.
then we have two engineers, and I think they'd both be really great. Mr. DiMartino and Andrea Stiller, whom I know well. She's great, really good. And either one of them would be excellent. I'm thinking that as much as I, like Andrea, know what a great job she did on Concom, I'm thinking to engage someone who hasn't been on boards and committees in town affairs. Mr. DiMartino has a lot of the same expertise, and I think he'd make a good member. And then I'm worried about the business side. Business is not my thing. So I'm glad to see there's an MBA business person thrown in the hat. And I'd like to capture the expertise of Frank Jenkins, because I know he's probably going to rotate off as soon as everything's in place. But I think he'd be really useful in getting the business up and running. So those are my two tentative picks, but I'm willing to listen to everybody else.
Great, Jeff?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Miriam, I guess I'd say. I think Frank would be ideal to be a full member initially. And then he can get things set up and transition off. And the other person I thought as a full member was Andrea.
Yeah.
Those are the two I thought as associate, and the others would all be fully participating, and we could decide at some point, for example, Frank could then switch to become an associate member once some of the agreements are up and running. And one of the associate members could then become a full member. So I just don't want to make too much of a distinction between full and associate, as Paul was explaining, but I think that in terms of expertise, we need Frank's expertise, and with Marion's suggestion of one engineering person, I thought Andrew's skill set matched that the best. So, but they're all great candidates, so that's my suggestion.
And I would love to name all three of them, Andrea, Jenkins, but I'm looking forward to resigning so that we can.
Well, I agree with Kathleen though about having Kathy be a resident is an important member. So I think she'll be not only representing her perspective, but all the butters and neighbors in the area.
Agreed.
So my 2 cents is, Frank Jenkins to me is a no-brainer. I've worked with him for years. Um, Again, based on my experience with representing water commissioners, he would be able to contribute significantly, particularly during a startup time, with organizing, getting things going, because at the end of the day, it's a business. So you're not just starting a water supply, you're starting a business. And at the end of the day, we want that business to be self-sustaining, not come to the taxpayers and say, oops, you screwed up, we needed this, we needed that, can you bail us out with $1 million? We do want it to be self-sufficient and find a way to make it work economically. So, to me, Frank Jenkins. The second choice, I think all of them are good. But I think fundamentally, I agree with the notion that a resident of district ought to be on the commission. It's just when you're setting up government organizations, to have a government organization that has nobody there, it's too much like it's too much leadership from afar. And somebody who's in the district knows the district, knows how it works, knows the people. And at the end of the day, governments work best with the consent of the government. So I would support Kathy Horgan Dye for the second position.
Great.
The big problem is we got 4 people.
I know, right? I know. Well, my two choices were going to be actually also Matthew DiMartino and Andrew Stiller. Essentially maximizing the sort of technical engineering expertise and then also getting Andrea's experience having worked on various boards and committees already in town. So, but I have great respect for you, Frank, so. It does sound like there's probably 3 votes for Frank, so that I think will probably make a lot of sense. I think that then it sounds like there's sort of 2 votes each for Matthew and for Andrea. Right?
That's it. Smith, you were.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, and I was Matthew and Andrea. So then, how do we decide
Well, I
there?
think on balance, then I'll go with Andrea because I know her, I know what a great job she's done. That'll give 3,
3 votes for Andrea.
so 3 votes for Frank, 3 votes for Andrea.
Okay.
But I definitely want that guy to be an associate member. Don't let him leave.
All right, well, I guess before the select board officially moves and votes on the members, I just wanted to reopen it to the floor. If anybody else had any comments or questions? Right, then I will,
Can I do the motion?
yes, please.
So I'd like to first break this up a little bit to create 4 associate positions to the water. What's the full name of the North Sherborn Water District?
Interim commissioners.
Interim commissioners.
So are you moving that we just
First, let's create.
first
Create.
create the position?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Before you
second.
fill them, let's
I was
create it.
just waiting for your other shoe.
All right, we have a motion and a
I
second.
second that, yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion passes 4-0. All right, now we officially have 4 associate member spots open.
All right, before I make a motion on that, there's one little little thing that I didn't agree with, which was that these people get appointed without a term until their successors are appointed. I would rather say, like all appointed positions in the town, that a 3-year term or shorter if there should be a
Change in circumstance.
if the, I'm trying to think of the right words, but if the permanent commissioners are prepared to take office.
Yeah, we just say change in circumstance covers. You could have someone move out of town that's there too, but just a change.
Yeah,
in
because that's really the same as any other board or committee that we appoint, right? We appoint them for a term, but if that spot opens up before the term is over, then we will open up applications to appoint somebody to finish that term out, right? So you don't have to put that into a motion, right?
However, it is possible that your permanent commission could be set up within that 3-year.
Yes, that's what I say, which 3 years or shorter if the permanent commission is set up. That's the right word.
Okay,
All right,
Thank you,
I'll
Jeremy.
second that.
all right, wait, so is that a new motion?
Yes.
Okay, great, that's
The
seconded.
motion is we're appointing, the appointments we make will be for a 3-year term unless the permanent commission happens to.
Did you say that last thing was the permanent one?
Yes, unless this, a permanent commission is established.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Sooner. So I'll second that
All
motion.
right, there's a motion and a second, all in favor?
All right,
Aye,
I.
all opposed?
I have a question.
Yes,
I do know that the water district has been approved by the state. The project itself has not yet been approved by the towns. There's an agreement, I guess, between the EM and the. Once those are done, then we'll have a building permit to start construction.
And we don't get, the developer is not yet fully committed.
Okay, that's another good point. So the question I guess I have is, will this commission start when a certain event occurs, like when we have the permit, we go ahead, or will it start sooner?
oh, it's gonna start sooner because this commission needs to be a party to the intermunicipal
So
agreements.
we will be,
So it's gonna be immediate.
Like right away.
that's why I was stressing the financial and legal upfront.
Yeah,
okay, I was just covering.
yeah. So actually, yeah, so this is a first step before any of that other stuff can even begin.
Gotcha.
So then that's the third motion. Third motion would be to appoint Frank Jenkins and Stiller as the voting members of the commission. And Gould, Oregon, B. Martini, and who,
Chuparaka.
yeah, thank you, as associate members.
Well, we're also doing Josh. Did you name him? also?
Josh Gould.
I was in there, yeah.
Yeah, he was in there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear.
Josh Gould, Oregon. B.
So we're
Martini.
appointing 4 associates and 2.
Yeah, well, I think, do we have to officially appoint Marion and I as well, or were we already appointed?
No, but that'll be the next motion.
Okay, great. All right, so right now, the current motion on the table is voting memberships for Frank Jenkins and Andrea Stiller, and then associate memberships for Josh Gould, Matthew DiMartino, Kathy Horgan, and Nora Kochaparikal.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes 4-0.
Then motion number 4, I think, is that the select board representatives be, drum roll, please.
Jeff and Paul?
And Steve.
Yeah, I second that. Sure.
All right.
Reservation.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Did you abstain? Mary? So that's officially 3-0-1, Diane.
And thank you for all the candidates for this.
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, honestly, this is the most number of candidates I've seen for, per vacant spot on any board or commission. At least since I've been involved in the town government here, so that's about 8 years.
It's because the pay is good.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about this position then.
So can I move that we recess our meeting to have?
No, we can just close.
We don't need to be in
We can adjourn.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can say just adjourn, right?
Know that we adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
All right, motion and second to adjourn, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All righty, off to the caucus.